The park cafe, nestled among manicured trees and a softly gurgling fountain, was a haven for the city's elite. Midday sunlight bathed the patio in warmth, and the air carried the scent of fresh bread and blooming jasmine. Waiters in crisp uniforms glided between tables, serving artisan dishes to patrons whose laughter mingled with the clink of wine glasses. At the center of this polished scene sat Bernard Green, a 72-year-old real estate magnate whose sharp suit and quiet confidence marked him as a man who owned his world. Across from him was Marissa, his younger wife, her jet-black hair and red lipstick framing a face that seemed designed for magazine covers. Her diamond bracelet glinted as she scrolled through her phone, her smile tight and distant. Just beyond the patio's iron fence, a boy named Malik lingered. Small for his age, his oversized hoodie hung loosely on his thin frame. His dark eyes scanned the tables, searching for scraps or an unguarded wallet. Malik had been on the streets for 2 years, ever since his mother's death left him with nowhere to go. The cafe was a world apart from the alleys he knew, but hunger drove him closer, his footsteps silent against the cobblestones. Bernard glanced at his watch, his voice low but pointed. "You're distracted again, Marissa." She looked up, her smile practiced but cold. "I'm right here," she said, reaching for his hand. "You know I love these lunches." Her tone was sweet, but her eyes flicked back to her phone. Malik edged nearer, his stomach growling as he eyed Bernard's table. A bowl of creamy soup sat untouched, flanked by warm bread and sparkling water. Then, something caught his attention. As Bernard adjusted his glasses and checked his phone, Marissa's hand slipped into her handbag. Her fingers closed around a small, clear vial. With a subtle twist, she tilted it over the soup, the liquid vanishing into the steam. She stirred the bowl casually, her expression unchanged, and leaned closer to Bernard. "After all I've done," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "You won't ruin this now." Malik froze, his breath catching. Had he really seen that? A woman like her, in a place like this, poisoning someone? His heart pounded as he crouched behind the railing, his nails digging into his palms. Bernard lifted his spoon, oblivious, while Marissa watched with a faint, unreadable smile. The cafe buzzed on, patrons chatting, waiters weaving. No one else had noticed. Malik's mind raced. He was nobody here, a kid in a threadbare hoodie who'd be chased off if he got too close. Why risk it? Who would believe him? But the memory of his mother's voice echoed faintly. "Do what's right, even when it's hard." He clenched his fists, his legs trembling as he stood. Before he could second-guess himself, he marched to the table and shouted, "Don't eat that!" The cafe fell silent. Heads turned, forks paused midair. Bernard froze, his spoon inches from his lips, his eyes locking onto Malik. Marissa's head whipped around, her composure cracking. "What did you say?" she demanded, her voice sharp enough to slice through the tension. Malik's voice shook but held firm. "She put something in your soup. I saw her. Don't eat it." Gasps rippled through the patio. Bernard's hand trembled as he set the spoon down, his gaze shifting between Malik and Marissa. "What is he talking about?" he asked, his tone calm but edged with doubt. Marissa shot to her feet, her chair scraping against the stone floor. "You little liar," she hissed. "How dare you? Who let you near this place?" Her words stung, but Malik stood his ground, his eyes fixed on Bernard. "I saw her pour something from a bottle when you weren't looking. Smell the soup if you don't believe me." Bernard's face paled. He turned to Marissa, his voice low. "What's going on here?" She scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "He's just some street kid looking for attention. You're not seriously listening to him, are you?" But her voice wavered, and her eyes darted to the bowl. The crowd murmured, their whispers growing louder. Bernard leaned back, studying Malik. The boy's steady gaze was unlike the practiced charm of those who'd tried to scam him before. "What's your name?" he asked. "Malik," the boy replied, his voice softer now, but resolute. "I'm telling the truth. Please." Marissa's laugh was harsh, her arms crossed tightly. "This is absurd. Bernard, eat your soup and let's go." But Bernard didn't move. He lifted the spoon again, holding it close to his nose. A faint, bitter scent lingered beneath the soup's aroma. His jaw tightened. "Marissa," he said, his voice dangerously quiet. "You've been distant for weeks. What's in this soup?" Her face flushed, her poise unraveling. I don't know what you're talking about. You can't think I'd... She stopped, her hands trembling as she clutched her handbag. Malik stepped closer, his voice rising. If you don't believe me, test it. You've got people for that, right? Doctors, lawyers, just don't eat it. The murmurs grew, and a waiter, finally snapping out of his shock, approached. Sir, should I call the police? Bernard nodded, his eyes never leaving Marissa. Yes, do it. Marissa's panic surfaced, her voice shrill. This is a misunderstanding. You can't... But Bernard raised a hand, silencing her. You're not going anywhere until we sort this out. As the waiter hurried inside, Malik felt a flicker of relief, but doubt crept in. What if Bernard didn't believe him? What if Marissa twisted the story? He clenched his fists, forcing himself to stay put. Bernard turned to him, his voice cutting through the tension. Malik, describe what you saw. The boy nodded. It was a small bottle, like for medicine, clear liquid. She poured it when you were on your phone, then stirred it. I swear Marissa's facade cracked further. He's lying! He's been watching us, trying to stir up trouble. But Bernard's gaze was unrelenting. Why would he lie? What does he gain from this? Sirens sounded in the distance, and soon 2 officers entered the cafe. The taller one surveyed the scene. What's going on here? Bernard stood, his presence commanding despite his age. This boy claims my wife poisoned my soup. I want it tested. The officer leaned over the bowl, sniffing cautiously, then turned to Marissa. Ma'am, do you have anything to say? Her face reddened. This is ridiculous. He's just a kid making trouble. But her outburst drew skeptical glances, and her trembling hands betrayed her. The officer's eyes narrowed. Ma'am, is there something you'd like to tell us? Marissa's chest heaved, her gaze darting between Bernard and the bowl. Then her resolve shattered. Fine, she spat, her voice low and venomous. I'm tired of his control, his shadow over everything. He wasn't supposed to last this long. She froze, realizing her mistake. The crowd gasped, some reaching for their phones. Bernard sank into his chair, his face ashen. The officer stepped forward. Ma'am, you're under arrest for attempted murder. Marissa screamed, struggling as they cuffed her, her protests fading as they led her away. The cafe buzzed with whispers, but Malik stood frozen, unsure if he should stay. Bernard's gaze softened, a flicker of gratitude replacing his shock. Malik, he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Sit. Malik hesitated but obeyed, his shoulders tense. Bernard leaned forward, his voice steady. You saved my life. I don't know how to repay you. Malik fidgeted, his voice barely above a whisper. I just couldn't let it happen. I had to say something. Bernard nodded, his eyes distant. Most people wouldn't have. That took courage. He paused, studying the boy. How long have you been out here? Malik looked away, his voice tight. A couple years. Bernard frowned but didn't press. Instead, he pulled out his phone and stepped aside to make a call. Malik's heart raced. Was he in trouble? But when Bernard returned, his expression was calm. I called someone I trust. They'll get you a safe place to sleep tonight. And if you'll let me, I'd like to do more. Malik's eyes widened. You don't have to. I didn't do this for anything. Bernard smiled faintly. I know. That's why I want to help. He leaned back, his voice thoughtful. You changed my story today, Malik. Maybe I can help change yours. For the first time in years, Malik felt a spark of hope. The cafe's chatter resumed, but the lesson lingered. Courage doesn't always come from wealth, and the overlooked can change everything. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the patio, Malik realized that sometimes doing what's right could rewrite not just one life, but many.